We stand today at an unprecedented turning point in human history. In recent years, two versions of ancient history have been formed. One we shall call alternative history, the other we shall refer to as the official history. The former ponders over a variety of anomalies that tries to make sense out of the corpus of evidence that is the pyramids and timelines. Why they were built, by whom and when. The latter conducts digs, catalogues pottery, shards, and tries to defend its proposal. There are no enigmas and virtually everything is explained. At one point, perhaps as late as 15 years ago, these two camps seems to be engaged in an informal dialogue that all changed after. Number 1, the Great Sphinx redating controversy caught Egyptologists off guard, and number 2, the impact of Chris Dunn's book, The Giza Power Plant, Technologies of Ancient Egypt and the End of the Last Decade. There is no more dialogue and no more polite gloves on debate. The proponents of the official's history have taken an increasingly political and ideological approach to the issue. They now do little more than offer pronouncements of the historical truth on the one hand and denounce of all those who dare challenge officialism on the other. In this context, we offer evidence that our scholars, the gatekeepers who control our institutions of higher learning, refuses to consider. The Great Pyramid, precision engineering. This colossal structure, the last of the 7 ancient wonders and the largest stone building in the world, still provokes awe, controversy, and plethora of theories that inspire bitter debate to this day. Instead of going over the well-established mysteries, we would like to shine new light on this important enigma that appears out of place in the Stone Age's Egypt. The real challenge the Great Pyramid still poses to us in the opening decade of the 3rd millennium is the physical plant itself. Theorists have gone on endlessly speculating about how it was built and the metaphysical, cultural, and religious significance and symbolism behind its construction. Though several authors have offered tantalizing possibilities, none have been conclusively proven. The mystery remains unsolved. To begin with, the massive size, the staggering volume, and weight of the building blocks remain problematic. With an estimated 2.3 million blocks with a weight of about 4 million tons, the pyramid is 2/3 the mass of the Hoover Dam. The sheer size and the numbers of blocks that had been quarried and moved into place present numerous architectural, construction, and engineering headaches. These issues have been raised time and again, yet are still unsettled. It is time to move on and define the even more difficult issues. We consider the core hard problems to be those that reflect precision engineering and assembly line manufacturing accomplished on a massive scale. The primitive tool scenario concocted by Egyptologists does not explain the following tasks: creating precision-cut casing blocks weighing 16 tons fitted together and held by a superglue mortar that maintained a tight seal, forming a nearly seamless shell. Number 2. Leveling the 13-acre limestone bedrock base to a degree of accuracy only recently achieved with laser technology. Number 3. Squaring the base with true north with minimal deviation. Number 4. Excavating the descending passage 350 feet into solid bedrock at a 26-degree angle while keeping the tunnel arrow straight for its length. Number 5. Bringing the massive 48-story pyramid together around complex internal structures, retaining the true shape to enable the builders to form the apex. Number 6. Extensive usage of different types of machine granite inside the Great Pyramid chambers. The father of modern Egyptology, Sir Flinders Petrie, marveled at the precision and size of the casing blocks. He carefully measured the blocks and found that the mean thickness of the joints are 0.020, and therefore the mean variation of the cutting of the stone from straight line and from a true square is but 0.01 on length of 75 inches up the face, an amount of accuracy equal to most modern opticians' straight edges of such a length. The modern international engineering firm of Daniel, Mann, Johnson and Manandel conducted a forensic analysis of the Great Pyramid. Their findings are evaluated in an article published in Civil Engineering. The pyramid was oriented with its major sides either north-south or east-west. This in itself was a remarkable undertaking given the accuracy to which it was done, because the Egyptians had to perform the work using astronomical or solar observations. The compass had not yet been invented. The dimensions of the pyramid are extremely accurate and the site was leveled with the fraction of an inch over the entire base. This is comparable to the accuracy possible with the modern construction methods and laser leveling. The summary speaks volumes between the lines. The problems with the descending passage are numerous. For starters, the tunnel is less than 4 by 4 feet, enough for no more than one excavator wielding a hammerstone at any given moment. How would our darkness once they had dug down 50 feet and more? In addition, how would the 26-degree angle be set and maintained without lights or levels? The lack of carbon deposits on walls and ceiling indicate that torches were not used. Once again, Petrie measured the passage and found an amazing accuracy of 0.020 of an inch over 150 feet and mere 0.250 inch over 350 feet of its constructed and excavated length. We submit that this passage with its smooth surfaces, squared shape, and accurate angle could not have been tunneled with primitive tools and methods. The Great Pyramid remains the world's greatest wonder and ancient enigma. We suggest researchers should pay more attention to these details and ask about the materials used inside the Great Pyramid, especially near the ventilation shafts. We now have the doors blocking a very important shaft, the one that pointed to the star Sirius in 2450 BCE. Mohenjo-Daro's civil engineering. Since indoor plumbing did not arrive in modern societies to any extent until the 20th century, and urban planning has still not been adopted much to this date in history, what we find in the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro is anomalous indeed. The city in the Indus Valley was built on a grid system about 4,500 years ago, obviously planned out and drawn up before the first brick was laid. It had houses, some with indoor plumbing, a granary, baths, an assembly hall, and towers, all made out of standard-sized bricks. The streets were about 8 to 10 feet wide on average and were built with well-engineered drainage channels. Mohenjo-Daro was divided into two parts. The citadel was on the upper level and included an elaborate tank called the Great Bath that was made of fine quality brickwork and drains. The Great Bath was 40 feet long and 8 feet deep, a huge public facility by any standards. A giant granary, a large residential building, and several assembly halls were also on the upper level. The Great Bath was made watertight by the use of 2 layers of the brick, lime cement, and then finally sealed with bitumen. The bath included a shallow section for children. You should wonder how an ancient culture of which nothing is known, not even their language, created this sophisticated city at a point in time many thousands of years ahead of the curve. Civil engineers do not crawl out of thatched roof huts, able to draw plans for a complex urban environment. We need to address the following question to archaeologists and historians. Number 1. Where are the cities that demonstrate the path of urban development, social and technical organization leading to Mohenjo-Daro? Number 2. How do you explain the sudden emergence of a complex society when 99.99% of the rest of humanity were living primitively? These issues cannot be brushed aside with some arrogant pretense that the questions have already been addressed and answered by digging up and labeling pottery, shards, and other artifacts. We have been and are being overly indulgent with our soft sciences regarding their cavalier assertions about having all the answers. In fact, they have very few. So why are they throwing stone at independent researchers from behind glass towers? Extraordinarily little is known about the Indus Valley civilization that once spanned nearly 1,000 miles, with other cities matching the description of Mohenjo-Daro. We file this under our list of great enigmas and challenges orthodox scholars to prove differently, as with the first 2 of our mysteries. We know that the Indus Valley civilization was contemporary with the Great Pyramid. It is often said this was one of the first 3 civilizations having a written script that has never been deciphered. Now we turn next to the mother of all civilizations, Sumeria, the source of civilization. Are we missing something? Or are historians looking at our earlier civilizations through a strange and distorted lens? Like Egypt and the Indus Valley, the biblical land of Shinar, the birthplace of Abraham, was a brutally hot, largely barren, empty desert with a mighty river cutting a swath through it. Does this sound like the magnet that would attract late Stone Age tribes to hunker down and pull wonders out of hat? In fact, historians thought Shinar was a piece of biblical fiction until the mid-19th century, but now they know everything about it with complete certitude that we, the unwashed masses, dare not question. Nonetheless, we encourage readers to maintain an attitude of healthy skepticism and dare to question the official history. As is the case with the culture that built the cities of the Indus Valley, no one knows who the ancient Sumerians were or where they came from. They called themselves the Black-Headed Ones and spoke a strange language that was unrelated to the language of the Semitic tribes in the region. Some linguists note a similarity between the Sumerian language and that of the Basque, another anomalous culture. We find it curious that any primitive people would choose the rigorous of a hostile desert environment to settle in and build a civilization. Why not a gentle river in a forested mountain valley? Especially in light of the fact that Sumeria contained very few resources, no forests, no minerals, not even the rocks that were plentiful in Egypt. How are we to explain the fact this mysterious culture managed to invent all of the core components of civilization under such restrictive conditions? It occurs to us that a culture would need minerals like copper, gold, silver, and tin immediately available to experiment with over the course of generations in order to create process metallurgy. There is nothing simple or accidental about making the connection between raw ores, the metals they contain, and how to reduce them out of their native state using high heat. Nevertheless, the Sumerians not only figured out geology, how to obtain the ore, knew the levels of heat needed and how to build kilns to achieve it. They also took very different metals and created the first alloy, bronze. As metalsmiths were performing these feats, other citizens were apparently creating the wheel, building cities, ziggurats, inventing writing, movable type, the ox-drawn plow, cereal crop agriculture, and advanced mathematics, to mention the most notable of their innovations. Something is wrong with this picture. Most human beings were counting using their fingers, if at all, hunting animals and gathering plants for their meals. Yet we find the Sumerians in classrooms learning the principles of the sexagesimal math system. Yes, the very same 60-based system we use today to keep track of hours, minutes, and seconds. This advanced system was the first to reveal that a circle has 360 degrees and can be subdivided using 60, 30, 15, 12, etc. all fractions of the root number. Teotihuacan, anomalous technical evidence. Teotihuacan in Mexico is an immense, even overwhelming, archaeological site, oriented along a twin axis. In the 1960s, a team of archaeologists and surveyors mapped out the entire complex in great detail. The resultant map revealed an urban grid centered around two principal, almost perpendicular alignments. From the Pyramid of the Moon at the north end, the complex extends south along the Avenue of the Dead beyond the Cutabella and Great Compound complexes for about 3.2 kilometers. To this north-south axis, we must add an east-west alignment that led from a point near the Pyramid of the Sun to a spot of prime astronomical significance on the western horizon. Anthony Aveni, an astronomer-anthropologist, discovered that on the day the Sun passes directly overhead in the spring of the northern hemisphere, the Pleiades star cluster makes its first annual pre-dawn appearance. It was at this point on the western horizon that the Pleiades set, and the builders aimed the east-west axis. Additionally, the Sun also sets at this point on the horizon on August 12, the anniversary of the beginning of the current Mesoamerican calendar cycle, determined by a consensus of academic and independent scholars to have begun on August 12, 311, 3114 BCE. It is very clear Teotihuacan was laid out according to a set of alignments that reflected celestial, geographic, as well as geodetic relationships. Walking along the avenue from one pyramid to another, up the steps to the top, and surveying the site from a multitude of angles, one is struck by the sense of being in the middle of some vast geometric matrix. Teotihuacan was the first true urban center in the Americas. At its peak around 500 CE, it boasted a population of an estimated 200,000. George E. Stewart, archaeologist and the editor of the National Geographic magazine, sums up our ignorance. We speak of it with awe, as we do the pyramids of Egypt, but we still know next to nothing about the origins of the Teotihuacans, what language they spoke, how their society was organized, and what caused their decline. As for one of the most anomalous of artifacts on the planet, in the 1900s, archaeologists discovered a sheet of mica in the upper tiers of the Pyramid of the Sun. This was no ho-hum pottery shard to catalog and file away in the dusty box, yet that is about the archaeologists treated the find. To anyone with a smattering of technical knowledge, discovering a large sheet of mica in an ancient pyramid site comes as a shock. In fact, it is one of the great smoking guns that turns archaeologists mum. Mica is an inflammable and non-conductive mineral that grows in fairly weak plate-like structures. It is not all useful as a structural building material. NASA uses it as a radiation shield in space vehicles. Mica is also utilized in electronic components and microwave ovens, and is a good shield for electromagnetic radiation like radio waves. Like the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of the Sun has a subterranean cavity under the middle of the pyramid. A large pyramid with thick layers of mica would be an excellent EMI shield. Its placement in the complex raises questions that we could only answer today after the development of electronic, atomic, and space-age technologies. Thick sheets of mica were also found by archaeologists about 400 meters down the avenue from the Sun Pyramid. These precision-cut sheets were of considerable size, 27.5 meters square. They were located under a rock slab floor of a complex now called the Mica Temple. What possible reason could the builders have had for including a layer of mica in any structure? It was obviously not decorative, to add greatly to the growing mystery. The particular mica used was traced to Brazil. Now we are getting in deep. How would a supposedly indigenous Stone Age culture know that mica existed 3,200 kilometers away in the jungles of Brazil? Not only that, how did they transport these large sheets over that long distance intact without wheeled vehicles? Surely not via relay teams on foot traveling over land. No large seagoing boats or boats have ever been found in ancient Mexico. High technology in Stone Age Peru. Lake Titicaca borders Bolivia and Peru in the Andes, the largest lake in the world. There are many signs it was once exposed to the ocean's. Megalithic structures like the Gateway of the Sun in Tiahuanaco, Bolivia, also indicate a long-lost past. The gateway was carved out of one solid block, the hard way to make a gate. Moving northward near Cusco, Peru, we find even more large, impressive, and mysterious structures. Here we find walls built with complex jigsaw-type megalithic blocks similar to the more familiar walls found at nearby Machu Picchu. Some of the megalithic structures contain complex cut rocks weighing over 100 tons, a few more joined together by bronze clamps. Some of the bronze had obviously been poured in place, a skill not available in the pre-Columbian Peru. Like Sumer, the High Andes is an unlikely location for Stone Age cities, evidence of advanced technologies and seminal agricultural discoveries. It is well established that the region around Tiahuanaco at 12,500 feet elevation had been turned into a highly productive agricultural zone. That was achieved by the building of dikes, dams, canals, and raised beds that created microclimates which protected the plants from frost. We have attempted to show our planet is full of ancient wonders and mysteries that have yet to be solved.
With so many conspiracy theories out there, it's hard to keep track of them all. Welcome to What We Know, where we try to uncover the histories and mysteries of the world by presenting all different theories out there, and the only narrative we push is this. Here's what we know, make up your own mind.
If you enjoy this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to us and hitting the like button. Feel free to write a comment below and suggest which theory you want to see next. If you'd like to further support this channel, please consider joining. Our membership link will be found in the description box below. We appreciate your support, and as always, thanks for watching.